Night sweats,
Hot
day
flushes.
sweats, it was, and night sweats, I would wake up and I would, wake my husband and I would say, look, can you just see? I mean, because I'd be soaked, absolutely soaked.
Actually, people who generally have hysterectomies only go on estrogen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also.
I remember Anna Barbieri telling me this, that
Yeah.
most people go on that, but I'm going to put you in this
Right.
as well. And I've been on it and it's worked for me. And then I spoke to my sister and she said, listen, just stop trying to act like you know everything. I don't even know the Hindu word for menopause. I was the first person to bring it up in Parliament.
Menopause. It was this all along. Most of the women I've spoken to about this transition tell me the same thing. Nobody warned them. Not their mothers, not their doctors, not the books, not even each other. They walked into it alone. Today's guest is a woman who has lived a life that asks a lot of a woman, and she has lived it loudly in a profession where there is no privacy and no quiet. Mahua Moitra is a member of parliament from Krishnanagar, West Bengal. She left India at 18, built a career as a vice president at JP Morgan in New York and London, walked away from it, came home and stood for elections in rural West Bengal. She is one of the most combative, unsparing voices in Indian politics today. A woman who has never once softened herself to make a room comfortable. And she is also a woman in her early 50s with her own experience of this transition and her own story of what it asks of a woman. Welcome, Mahua.
Thanks, Roshini. Thanks for inviting me to the show.
It's a pleasure to have you, and thank you so much for supporting It's Menopause all along. It's been a crazy endeavor, and thank you so much for being here.
Much needed one, though.
Thank you. I'm going to go straight into the questions. So, where are you in this transition?
So my journey's been a bit different in that I had an emergency hysterectomy and oophorectomy, and actually with even my fallopian tubes removed. So I had got very, very bad endometriosis, and which resulted in a lot of complications. So it was a bit of an emergency about 2.5 years ago, in January 24.
Wow.
And so when you actually transition into menopause, it's a process.
Yes.
But when you have a surgically induced menopause, you literally fall off a cliff.
Yep.
For most people, it's a gradual process. You can feel it coming on. But when it's surgically induced, as it was in my case, and you have your ovaries taken out, then your estrogen production obviously just goes to zero. So your body goes into shock. And the nearest thing, like I said, is falling off a cliff.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different, but it does happen to a lot of people, and the symptoms are more pronounced. They're far more sudden, and you don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
So yes, that's where I am in my journey. But I think because of the profession I'm in, I allowed myself very little recovery time, both physically and mentally, and I kind of told myself that this is it. This is January. My election was in March.
Wow.
My Lok Sabha election was in March.
Wow.
So I had to be on the road and campaigning in 8 weeks. And I kind of told myself that. And I had to be ready for it. And I was.
What were the symptoms? Like, talk through the symptoms so that, we just understand what was going on with you.
See, for people who have a gradual onset of menopause, you talk to your friends, you kind of get used to it, you have a support system. And I have a very strong support system of all my girlfriends from college. So it's not that I was lacking in a support system at all. But because it was surgically induced, because it happened overnight, I went to the hospital for a checkup and they said, you need to get this surgery done tomorrow. So I had no time to prepare at all. I came out, and for me, everyone reacts differently.
Right.
When I spoke to my sister, when I then later spoke to my mother, people react differently. For me, it was the hot flashes, whatever you call them. Anyway, were terrible, absolutely terrible. I've never had the sweats like that. So I came out of hospital, literally you would be bathed in sweat. I'd wake up I didn't get a good night's sleep I had my surgery in January, so say from January till about October.
Right, so night sweats.
Night sweats,
Hot
day
flushes.
sweats, and night sweats, I would wake up and I would, wake my husband and I would say, look, can you just see? I mean, because I'd be soaked, absolutely soaked.
Yeah.
So that was one. You feel hot all the time. You could be in an air-conditioned room and you feel, so your body thermostat just goes for a 6.
Yeah.
So that was one. Second, my sleep pattern was completely disturbed. Like I didn't get a good night's sleep for about 10 months. 3, fatigue a little bit, but I kind of mentally didn't let myself go there. I had no time for fatigue because I had to fight an election literally in 8 weeks' time.
Right.
So I would say the sweats and the sleep pattern disturbance were the worst for me.
Okay.
And it wasn't, I was not planning to get on HRT. I actually thought I could push through it.
Okay.
And then I spoke to my sister and she said, listen, just stop trying to act like you know everything.
Right.
Stop trying to act like you're boss lady. This is something physical. You're not going to be able to bulldoze your way through this. Don't be an idiot. Just get on HRT. Your estrogen production has gone to 0.
Yeah.
You do need to supplement it and get it back.
Yeah.
So she said, stop. So basically, I think she really put me on the path. And then I got my test done, checked all my levels, and it was that.
And you went on HRT?
Yeah, I went on, I went to Dr. Soonawala in Bombay. I went to him in Bombay in, I think, March.
Yeah.
And that was one. I went for a day, so he was very good. And then my friend Yuki in the US, who's also a doctor in New York, connected me with a specialist in New York called Dr. Anna Barbieri.
Okay.
And I had a virtual consultation with her. She's really top of the pops in this.
Okay.
So I spoke to her. She ran me through it. Now, everyone's body, the science in this is still we've put people
nascent.
on the moon, we've done everything.
Yes.
But the science on this is actually very, very nascent.
Yeah.
And so she put me on a mix. I was just on estrogen, and she put me on a mix of estrogen and progesterone. So that was that. And then I've been on that. And she also put me on magnesium for sleep.
Did that help with sleep?
That helped. And that did help. And I was on ashwagandha. And then over time, I think it was October, I went to the Meyer Life Clinic.
Right.
Where they said you're allergic to gluten. So try and cut out gluten, try and cut out lactose.
Was this something changed that you found there was a different change and therefore you were allergic, or was this something that you were possibly living with?
I think when your body goes through a change as brutal as that, you try and figure out what's wrong with it. I never actually got all of this done. I hadn't had time. I'm a fairly fit person.
Right.
I've always
You don't
exercised.
think of it.
I never thought of it. I've always hydrated, got sleep, worked out, had a busy life. I've never really thought about it. So it was the first time that I actually thought about my body and my health. So it was a wake-up call.
Okay.
And then they said, listen, you're a healthy diet, but have you ever thought about the fact that gluten doesn't agree with you? So I cut out gluten, and it's been a year and a half, almost 2 years.
And you're feeling better?
Really helped.
Feeling better?
Feeling better. The bloating is gone. Energy levels through the roof. Bloating's gone. Sleep back to normal. I have the magnesium. I've stopped the ashwagandha, but I sleep just fine.
Right.
So I think it takes you a good year to get back on track. It took me a good year.
Do people, like you said, you had a lot of support. Did friends, family, mothers, grandmothers talk about this, or?
No, when I said I had support, I said I came I have a good support network.
Yeah.
But when it came to this, actually, none of my friends had actually gone through. My friends were a year or two, same age. I was the first, I think. So nobody had gone through in my immediate friend circle. Nobody had gone through menopause.
Right.
My mother, I think, went through menopause when I was in college. And anyway, my mother and I, our relationship is not one where we just get on with things. We don't really talk about it. So we didn't talk about it. I don't, and my mother's very matter of fact about this. I can't see her sitting, and I don't even think she remembers, frankly. So the nearest person I had was my sister, who was good, and she'd gone through a natural menopause. She was an HRT,
yes,
and she said, she said, get on the medication, don't try. And so that was one. But what I did was, I was the first person to bring it up in Parliament. I remember I had been expelled from Parliament in December. I had had my hysterectomy in January. I had run for re-election in March, in April, got re-elected in May, come back to Parliament in June. And in my maiden speech, after getting re-elected and coming back, in my speech, and there's a paragraph in it, I stood up in Parliament in the Lok Sabha, and I said I'd lost my house, I'd lost my membership to the Lok Sabha, and I'd also lost my uterus. And I actually said that. And people were like, my God, I can't believe she said that in Parliament. And but I wanted to say it. I wanted to say it because I didn't want it brushed under the table. I wanted to know that this went on.
Yeah.
And of course, there was a whole lot of trolling where people made all the cheap misogynistic comments about, oh, now that you don't have a uterus, you can do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And then you really see the kind of misogyny and the kind of patriarchy that's out there that is even linked to this. But it's important that we face it. I wasn't scared to face it, so we faced it. That was one thing. I said it in Parliament. The second thing was in my constituency, when I had my surgery, I told everyone, I have a rural constituency, a kind of conservative constituency, but when I was ill and I'd had a surgery, I didn't hide it. Everyone knew what surgery I'd had. They all knew that Didi has had this surgery, and they would talk about it, that Didi's had this surgery, and they knew what it was.
So women knew
men knew. All my block presidents are men. And you had my block presidents tell me, Didi, you can't lift heavy things. And they would say in Bengali, Amar Mrs. er hoyeche. They say Mrs. for my wife. Yeah. They say the word Mrs.
Yeah.
So they say, so it's like saying in Hindi, Hamare Mrs. ko bhi hua hai.
Yeah.
And you can't be on stage, you have to be careful now. You can't just lift things. You have to be very careful for 6 months. You can't lift things.
Right.
So everybody kind of knew what I'd had.
Right.
They supported me through it. I remember I couldn't climb stairs during my campaign.
Right.
They would try and have meetings on the first floor. Everyone knew I had to use the washroom, and it was difficult for me to squat. So people would make sure that when I was going, they would say, listen, there's the Didi's bathroom is here. On the campaign, we'll make sure that there's not an Indian style, she can't squat.
So this is very considerate, right?
This is very considerate. Very
this is men and women.
Men, women, mostly men. On the campaign trail, your workers are mostly men. Women. And everybody knew what had happened. I think also when you don't hide it, and it is what it is.
Right.
It was wonderful. I didn't face any problems campaigning. That was March, and I was still, very raw. And I'd had a secondary hemorrhage because they kicked me out of my house on the 16th of January. And I'd come out of hospital on the 12th, I think. So I was 4 days on. They kicked me out of the house. I had stayed up all night packing when I was not supposed to stand. I'd had a secondary hemorrhage on the back of that, and bled and really had a pushback.
They didn't know you had this, and they didn't want to give you more time.
We went to court, and my lawyer said that she's come out of hospital, and the government's lawyer stood up and said that we don't even know if it's true. It could be, that's a reality. That's the reality. And they said, we don't even know it's true. And she might have done it just so she could continue to stay in this government bungalow. So that was it. No, but that's it. We must talk about it because these things happen. And I don't cry about it. It is what it is. I dealt with it. I'm not feeling sorry for myself, but I'm just saying that it is what it is, and I dealt with it. And the judge didn't give me any relief. I mean, I'm glad he didn't. I'm glad I left the house and everything happens for the best.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was difficult, and it really took a toll because I had that secondary hemorrhage, which pushed back my recovery.
Yeah.
But having said that, what doesn't break you makes you stronger, so you decide to get on with it.
Right.
So, I don't emotionalize these things at all. And the support I got on the ground was amazing. I ran a campaign, a very tough campaign in 42, 43 degrees centigrade.
Right.
All through March and April, barely 9 weeks into my surgery. And everyone helped, and it was fine.
So are rural men more empathetic to this, you think, than urban men? Or, I mean, because obviously people in urban India don't seem to talk about this. They don't seem, they're clueless.
I think
women are not acknowledging it.
Men know. It's like, I think it's an identity thing, and if you identify with people and they identify with you and you work closely with them and you're open and transparent about everything, I think I've seen that in life. I've never tried to hide who I am or hide my emotions or hide my problems, and I think if you're in grassroots politics, people have to see you as a human being. With all your faults, with all your flaws,
yes,
with all your ups, with all your downs, that makes you more identifiable. Mm-hmm. So the fact that I was vulnerable, that I was unwell, but I was fighting the fight, made people come out and say, look, she's fighting the fight and we've got to be there for her. So I think that was part of it. I wasn't looking for sympathy. I was just doing what I was. There's a difference between sympathy and empathy.
Yep.
There is a difference.
That's why I said
between
empathy.
that,
Yes.
So
yes.
I think people were empathetic
Yes.
towards me, and they felt they were also part of the struggle, and we had to win. So that was good. So I found I had enormous support from everyone in my area, and that didn't come from a place of hiding the problem. That came from a place of everyone knowing what was going on,
speaking
and dealing
loudly.
with it and moving on with it, which I thought I have done more for at least surgical menopause or surgical.
So a lot of women,
hysterectomy.
everyone in your constituency today would know this.
Today
and
would know
be aware of.
Be aware
That's
of it.
fantastic.
Yeah,
that is
I didn't shy
fantastic.
away from it.
No, so what about people don't talk much about this, but intimacy, desirability, confidence, a lot of these things get shaken, right?
Yeah.
People go into this transition after being in a relationship for 20 years. Your relationship is new. What was that like?
I was lucky in that that my husband, my partner, is a lot older than me, and he's 15, 16 years older than I am, and has obviously been in. This is not just, it was his second marriage. He's been in relationships.
Right.
He is an empathetic, very empathetic man, but having said that, he's lived a full life, and it wasn't the first time that it was hitting him in the face. Now that I think of it, if I think of my father and my mother, now that it does come back to me, I don't see my father being that empathetic towards my mother at that time. But it's also the type of man you are. It's also the type of man. It depends from man to man as human beings. So I was very lucky in that Pinaki was a very loving man. He was a very empathetic man, and we just got on with it. I didn't cry about it. He didn't think. We got on with it. But yes, all of that, the hot sweats, the night sweats, the lack of sleep. You definitely, when you don't sleep, you're irritable. That just causes a whole host of things, and you're just living with this monster in the house. Right. So I think he was a little kinder to me at the time, and did his bit in helping out living with the monster in the house. So but I think that really depends on person to person. But it did help having a partner who was older, who was aware of the situation, who was an empathetic man.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I guess you chose well. We could say that.
Well, like I said,
absolutely.
I've missed my share of frogs, but I clearly came out okay in the end.
I also want to touch back again. You said, when you went for medical help, it was quite readily available. And I know perhaps it was also readily available to you because you had had a hysterectomy.
Right.
Do you believe people get medical help, or are they sort of medically dismissed in these kind of situations?
There is a complete void. There's a void. There's an emptiness. There is just nothing on the ground in rural areas about menopause. It's like it doesn't exist. Even for me, for me to find in India, the surgical process and its recovery is surgery related. That's something.
Right.
When it comes to backup help, the surgeon who did my surgery, there was no follow-up regarding what's going to happen next.
Right.
I literally had to speak to my friend in New York, get Dr. Barbieri on the phone. It was not possible for me to go to see Dr. Sunawala in Bombay all the time. I had to set up Dr. Barbieri, who is an endocrinologist, who deals with only menopause.
Right.
She's a menopause specialist. I had to get her on the phone. This is not available to everybody.
No
this is not an
access.
option. I'm aware of how privileged I was, how easy it was for me to get that access.
Yes.
When I look at crores and crores of women in this country, for urban women of privilege, who have access to a certain amount of wealth, a certain amount of support, who can get this, even that is limited. But for crores of women on the ground in rural areas, there is nothing. You can't even talk about it. I have never had anyone in a rural area, and I've been there for 18 years on the ground.
No one's come up to you.
No one's ever talked about it. It's like it doesn't exist.
So no woman has ever actually
No one has
come
ever
there.
talked about it. No, it doesn't. It's like it doesn't exist. So everyone is dealing. It does exist. So everyone's dealing with it.
It's not like ever been an instance where someone said, "Didi, mera sir, मैं सोच नहीं सक रही हूँ, ये नहीं हो रहा है."
Nobody.
There's nothing like that.
Nothing like that. No one's talking about it. There are no support groups. Nobody's talking about it. I said, look, we've just about started talking about periods and getting free sanitary napkins in schools.
That took long enough.
Getting vending machines put in schools was the big thing for us.
Right.
And getting people to talk about menstrual hygiene and all of those issues. And even that is at a nascent stage in most areas. But apart from that, this is the big black box that no one talks about, that you don't even know what goes on. If you ask me, all the women I work with, who are my constituents, who I live with, breathe with, eat with, do everything with.
Nothing.
We've never discussed this. It doesn't work. It doesn't exist. So you can imagine what this is, because this is something, it's almost like it is a privilege of the rich and the well-heeled to even talk about it, to get help for it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about, and that is something that we need to...
Because we've never focused on women's biology.
No, it doesn't exist.
We
don't.
We don't seem to care too much about it. So it's sort of, I think we end up in these kind of places. I mean, it's strange because we are in this land of worshipping devis. And yet when we are sort of confronted with the real woman, we don't really want to acknowledge her in ways. I mean, what do you think? I mean,
it's very funny that you say that, because that's something I always say. I said, I come from the land, from Bengal, where we worship Kali and Durga and Shakti and the female force.
Yes.
But in India, it's almost as if they are looking up to the murti rather than the actual force behind it. So as long as it's a deity and it's an idol and it's an image of this female form, that's nice, and they look up to it. But whenever it comes to the Shakti or the energy that is behind it, I don't think a very large part of India can deal with it. And they don't want to deal with it. So when you look at the goddess Kali, and I've got into trouble for saying this before, but I will again say it, is that you look at Mother Kali, and Ma Kali is not a vegetarian goddess. She's not.
No, she's not.
We offer all alcohol to her. We offer meat to her. We offer fish to her. That's a reality. But if you say it, it's like, oh my God, what are you saying? So though what I'm saying is the truth. So when you say you're talking about Shakti and you're talking about Mahishashur Mardini, what is Durga? Mahishashur Mardini. She is the person who has slayed the Mahishashur. She has slayed, and she's standing, if you think about it, she's standing with her foot on
top. Yes.
On top of it. That's her image, that I've got him under my... That's power.
Yes.
But that is something to worship for the 12 days or the 10 days of the pujas. For the rest of the days, it's all about how we can get women under our feet. And that is something that it's not something we can change overnight. I mean, there are people, like you're doing this and you're talking about it, I'm doing this. But it's plowing a lonely furrow because people can't deal with it.
Why are people scared of women? Because why do you need women under your feet? Because it has to be fear, correct?
It is fear. Of course it's fear. Of course, there's no other reason. It's of course fear. You're fearful of equality. Nobody is even talking about more than my fair share. All we're talking about is a seat at the table. You need a seat at the table first. We're not even ready to give a seat at the table. I'm not talking of rights and talking of all of those things come later, but you have to have a seat at the table. What we are still fighting for here is a seat at the table. And, it's only when you have a seat at the table that you can discuss what's going on.
Right.
When do people get to talk about menopause? When there is enough people in the health department of every single state government, and every people,
enough women
at the seat who say this is a problem, and we need to deal with it. And this is something that has to be. We need to have support groups. When we talk of Asha, look, in this country we have really revolutionized prenatal outreach.
Absolutely.
Through the Asha system. You have pregnant women in the most dense rural areas where you have an Asha Didi going to their house, following up on them, giving them medication, when the child comes to go, doing their vaccination, and we've done it. So if we have that outreach, we can use that same network. We have the distribution system, so to speak. We can train those Asha Didis, who themselves are women, to say, can you go in and tap the women of the household in the 45 to 55-year-old? And actually, Indian women get menopause earlier. It's a little earlier than other people.
It's at 45, 46 years old.
to 50 rather than 50 to 55 for the rest of the
yes.
thing. So when you're looking at 45 to 55. And Asha Didis can go to the house and figure out. And we can have community support groups that talk about this, that do this.
Yes.
But this is something that needs to be done through the social welfare system, through the health system of this country, both at a state and a federal level.
Yeah.
But this is something that we've been lacking.
So today we know this. I mean, even so, let's assume something like that does happen. The access to also medicine, because HRT is also requires access, right? And today we understand it's not just about alleviating symptoms. We know what the loss of estrogen does to your bones, to your heart, to your brain over time, right? So it's almost like where we need estrogen.
Absolutely. It's a physical issue. It is, it's biological, it's physical, it's medicinal. It's not psychosomatic. Most people think menopause is psychosomatic. They think it's a disease has something to do with your head. It's nothing to do with your head. Yeah. If your vitamin D level is down, you are going to feel fatigued.
Yes.
You will have to take a vitamin D
pill,
an injection, a sachet,
yes.
and get it back to normal.
Yeah.
It happens to men, it happens to women.
Yeah.
Similarly, if your estrogen level is down,
right.
there is no amount of, evening primrose oil that you can glug. You can glug a liter of it and it's not going to help you.
Yeah.
Like there are all these medicines. I remember they told me, what's the name of that pill which you get in the UK? What's that?
No, it's called, there's
there's
black cohosh.
There's a pill, but it's not HRT. And yes, that can all help, but that will never replace estrogen. But the issue is this access to medical help is necessary, because you can put evening primrose oil and you can put this and that and all of those things, but estrogen itself is something that has to be medical prescribed to you. Mm-hmm. Whether you're on 2 mg, whether you're 1 mg, like I'm on 1 mg. There are people on 2 mg.
Yeah.
So it depends, and that has to be done under the
guise of a doctor.
Thing of a doctor.
Yeah.
It cannot be done. You can't be just writing that out. Like, for example, I needed a mix of progesterone and estrogen.
Right.
So that depends from person to person.
That's actually quite rare in your situation. I have to say that, because actually people who generally have hysterectomies only go on estrogen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also.
I remember Anna Barbieri telling me this, that
yeah.
most people go on that, but I'm going to put you on this
right.
as well. And I've been on it, and it's worked for me. It's worked very well for me.
Right.
And she said the science is very nascent on that, but I've worked with patients on this, and I want to put you on it. And I went on it, and I feel great. I feel what I did pre my hysterectomy. I'm absolutely back to normal in terms of my energy, in terms of all of this, my sleep. So it has helped. I don't feel...
It has made a big difference.
It has made a huge difference.
So it was not what you were talking about. It's not actually wellness drugs that made any difference to you. It is actually proper...
It's proper. It is
proper,
that's absolutely right.
Yes, it's proper allopathic medicine that's made the difference.
Absolutely.
Right?
So you can drink all the...
It's called peri. I think that drug you're talking about, I think it's called peri something.
Menopause.
Yes, that's correct.
Menopause. I think
Menopause.
makes it, you get it in Boots, yeah. So I've got all those capsules of menopause lying at home. I've got cartons of it. But yeah, so, or you can take all of that, but that's not estrogen. And yes, you can take that as an additional supplement, of course. Mm-hmm. Take your vitamins, take your supplements, but that is not going to take the place of a drug. If you are sick and have a bacterial infection, no amount of vitamin C is going to help it. You're going to have to take an antibiotic.
Right.
It's the same thing.
Right.
There is no substitute. And if you are naturally transitioning into menopause, and your body is going slowly, and you still have your ovaries, that's different. But if you have a surgical menopause and you just fall off the cliff,
very
different.
No other way. Very, very different. You're feeling much better, but I'm going to again sort of ask you, how does it feel, or how did it feel? And I don't mean professionally, but personally. What was that impact for you? You are in Parliament. It's not the kindest room. What is it like to be a woman who's going through this and being amongst?
Roshini, it's strange, and it's perhaps not the answer you're looking for, but I just didn't have time to even think about it. I didn't have time to think about it because I couldn't afford myself that luxury. I had just been expelled from Parliament. I just had my surgery. I knew I had to win the election and come back.
Yeah.
And I thought of nothing else. I was just in survival mode. It was completely flee or fight. And I was fighting. So everything in my body, my soul, my mind had taken over the rest of me. So the adrenaline was taking over everything. And I went through the election and I fought and I came back and went through that. So I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about it.
And so professional, but personally?
I wasn't thinking about it.
You weren't even, you didn't have a moment to think about it personally
No,
for
I
yourself?
didn't have a moment to think about it. It was June before I knew it. I'd won the election. I'd come back. It was a result that we'd all wanted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were on a high. And it wasn't till September, October when I said, I have to handle the sleep issue. And I just can't get sleep. And
sleep
that's
is
when I
terrible.
went to My Life and got all of that done. So, yeah, I didn't have the luxury of thinking about it.
Well, you're lucky.
I was lucky.
I'm 10 years in, I still have sleep issues.
Yeah. But magnesium has really helped. I've been on the magnesium glycinate, and that
Yeah.
has really helped. And continue exercise routine, hydration. I'm not a big tea coffee person, so I've never had. I think eating right makes all
It
the
does make a difference.
Eating right, hydration, and positive energy. I have a lot of toxicity in the world that I inhabit. I have a great deal of positivism also.
Mm-hmm.
So I try and take the toxicity for what it is, and I try and live off the positivism. That's something we all have to do.
I mean, do you think you could have done anything if you were to look at this retrospectively 5 years ago or 6 years ago?
No.
Could you have changed anything? Would it have made any difference?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I've lived a fairly healthy life. I've
Right.
worked out, I've exercised, I've eaten right. Given the profession I'm in,
Yeah.
I couldn't have done anything else.
You
Given
couldn't
the
have.
circumstances I operate in, I've done it okay. I'm kind of a disciplined person, so I've never, been indisciplined about it. Perhaps if it hadn't happened at the time it did, I could have dealt with it better. It wouldn't have been harsher on my body.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't pick and choose these things. It happened when it happened, and I dealt with it, and it was fine. And I'm back at the gym. I'm back at everything. I'm doing my weights. I can't even tell, frankly. Apart from the only thing I wish is I'm quite vain, and I have 5 little scars on my tummy, which could have been 3. So that's about it. But apart from that, nothing else reminds me of it.
Liberation, maybe? A lot of people feel like, I mean, I've heard the word even term
do
that,
feel
oh my God, liberated.
You
and
do feel liberated. You do feel liberated. That's a good way of putting it. You do feel liberated. You don't have the jhamela, as we say in Bengali, to deal with it anymore. And especially for me, who's a person who, I don't have any children. So for me, I was just, it didn't make a difference in my life.
Can a powerful woman admit she has brain fog without people deciding that she is no longer fit for power?
It's difficult in the country that we live in, because the very qualities that people admire in men are the very qualities that are used to deride women and to put them down. Mm-hmm. So what is powerful in a man, for him to be aggressive, for him to be anything, even if a man forgets, and he's a person, I've seen many leaders who have short-term memory loss, who don't remember, men in their 80s, in their late 70s, in positions of power. Mm-hmm. But everybody is much kinder to it. And they'd be like, oh, sir to aajkal bhul jate, pata hai na, sir. But it doesn't affect him. Nobody ever says he's not fit for office. People don't say he's up for re-election, he's not fit for. But they're not that kind to women. So for women, they'd say, nahi, wo to she's cantankerous, she sabke upar chillati hai, she's cantankerous, she's this, she's that. So they're much more, it is a patriarchal society. So they're much more forgiving of men. They allow men in positions of power to have vulnerability, to have all of those things, and that is never considered a sort of liability for holding office. Whereas for women, that's obviously, you're held to a much higher bar. Because also there's so few women in power, in real positions of power.
So
we have one main cabinet minister who's a woman, the finance minister. Yeah. Otherwise, everybody else, I think, is a minister of state. So even when you look at the cabinet, when you look at how many women chief ministers do we have?
Right.
So all of that, it matters. If you look at women MPs, there are only 74 female MPs out of 543. So I personally don't have a problem with admitting to anything. I mean, I admitted I had a hysterectomy, I'm not well, but it's fine. But you don't, you get on with it. But I think for anyone to admit that they've got brain fog and they can't think straight, in any position of power, in politics in this country, would be difficult.
It would be weaponized.
It would be difficult. It would be weaponized against you. Yes.
So this is.
You have to be very sure of yourself.
Right.
You had to be self-assured. Right. You have to be self-aware, and you've got to almost say it in a self-deprecating manner, like, "Oh my God, I get brain fog nowadays."
And then it's okay.
And then it's okay. But that again is a privilege that us or been Western educated women
People
have.
can-
That's not a luxury that rural women can afford.
Can you remember a moment where you had to choose between being honest and appearing completely put together? In the rooms that you walk, has that kind of...
No, I actually I had the sleep problem, and I
Right.
had sweats and hot flushes.
Right.
I didn't have brain fog, or I didn't have fatigue, and all
Right.
of the other things.
Right.
So I personally haven't gone through situations where I felt I couldn't hold my shit together.
Yeah.
I haven't been through that. I haven't slept, I've been irritable and all of that, but I'm actually quite a cantankerous person anyway, so people just think it's normal. Yeah, so it hasn't happened to me personally,
Right.
but I have seen women, and I've empathized with a lot of women who are going through not feeling very, very well, and at the same time are under huge pressure to appear a certain way.
Do you think it'll ever change? It's because women in their 50s, a lot of them, as we know now, will go through brain fog. And at the same time, you're probably at the height of your career as well. And I'm not just talking about politics, I'm talking about even corporate careers. How do we navigate this? How are women supposed to navigate this? I mean, if this is something these are things that you cannot admit in rooms, how do you...
We need to be able to admit them in rooms. Look where we've come in the last 25 years. Look where we've come. There were so many issues when I entered banking 25 years ago.
Right.
28 years ago. Even in our life, there were so many things we couldn't do. I remember I was on a trading floor, and you didn't wear trousers. Everyone wore skirts because that was what people did. Now nobody cares. People wear trousers. When I entered a trading floor, all the women wore skirts. So it's simple things. The women were in sales. They weren't really in trading. They were, it was taken for granted that women were in sales roles and trading roles were for men. So on the trading floor, because women had families, and so they would come into sales and they would go home at 5 o'clock. Whereas if you were banking, you were staying a lot longer. So there are these traditional slots that women have traditionally been slotted into, and we've lived all our life in these silos because we couldn't get out of it. But in the last 25 years, with time and with more women at the table, things have changed. The only way to change it if there's more women on the table. The only way to change it if there are 5, let's just take a government department. If there is some lady clerk who's having an issue, and she's got a female superior who is empathetic, who's gone through the same thing, who talks about it. Then there's a senior IS officer, a lady, who understands and talks about it. Then you have a female minister, a lady minister, who talks about it. So as long as you have more seats at the table going to women, then women's issues come to the forefront. If you're a single person, a minority of 2, or a minority of 1, then your issues are never going to be mainstream issues. And I think that's the problem.
Well, women coming to the table, I mean, do you think more women are going to be able to come to the table? It's taken so long. And one more thing, I mean, a lot of women are very chauvinistic. So when a woman comes to the table, she wants to behave like a man. If she was to behave like a woman or treat other women the way she needs to treat herself, then I think the problem goes away, because then she talks about these things. But when she has to come and put on a front and wear a suit technically herself, that changes.
That's something that happens over time. So I'll tell you, when I entered the financial world almost 30 years ago, when I graduated from college, 98, and went to work 28 years ago, we had women like that. It was actually very terrifying working for a woman boss, because if you had a managing director in banking who was a woman, she had clearly made it in a man's world, and she had done it by being more man than man.
Yeah.
So she'd be a much harder taskmaster, and she'd be much worse to work for than for a male boss. But if you see in the last 28 years in Europe or in the United States, with more and more women working, women have shed that backpack that they necessarily felt that they had to carry. And women bosses have become much more aware that they can be women, they can have children, they can be feminine. They don't have to become men or become rude or become aggressive or become all of those things. But it's taken a good 20-25 years for it to happen in the US and in Europe in male-dominated careers. Now it's taken for granted in Europe that you will go home at 3 o'clock and you will work a 35-hour week. And all of those things have come in with time. So in India, I think we are sort of that 15, 20 years behind. In another 15, 20 years in India too, when you see more and more women coming into, now we've got 74 women in parliament. Hopefully in the next 10 years we will have 150 women in parliament.
That's a long time.
But that is a long time, but that's how long society
You
takes
think
to change.
this
Roshini.
change is not going to happen in the
No.
next, I mean, you look
No.
at this generation.
It doesn't. It's not a generational thing. Any change in society, it's 20 years when it comes to changes like this is not a long time. It's not a long time. It's not a long time at all. So 15 years is what it takes minimum. And I would say that in India, we've only started the process. It will take a good another 10 to 12 years for that to come. It's not something that happens. For people like us, Roshini, we're very privileged.
Yeah.
We are urbane, we're suave, we have the benefit of, we're global citizens. And for us, we are comparing ourselves and holding ourselves up in a world where the parameters are global parameters. But when you're operating in India and you're looking at rural India and you're looking at women that operate in very different environments, it's a different world. And for that to change, believe me, I'm on the ground and I don't see that happening before 15 to 20 years, which again is not a very long time. It's not a very long time.
You say
No,
it's not a long. You say
No, it's not. It's not. When I think of when I entered banking in '98 and it's 2026, and I see how much the world has changed.
Yeah.
In 28 years, it's not a long time because if you think about it, all my friends' kids who are now graduating from college, if I had a child,
Yeah.
she or he would have been graduating from college and going into work into banking now.
Yeah.
So what we went through, these kids won't go through. So you look at it like that. As long as our kids don't have to go through what we went through, then that's not that much time at all.
Generation. I find that I have a son, right, and he's a Gen Z, and I look at him. There's so much equality between the girls and the boys in that generation. So
Again,
I'm
but he's
old.
a child of privilege, Roshni. It's a privilege thing. It's access to education and access to wealth thing. We're talking about two very different Indias. We can't have this conversation in the context of a global world. We have to have it in the context of the country we live in. Your child went to a private liberal arts college on the west coast of America with tuition that even wealthy Americans can't afford. He obviously has grown up in this bubble of equality because that's what you have afforded him. But that is not something that even I was afforded, that I had to fight for. And if I'd had a child, maybe I would afford it to them. So when we talk of Gen Z also, it is not that. I mean, I have women in my area that are just fighting to come out and go after class 12 to go to college in Calcutta. The men are going to college in Calcutta, but even bright students have to stay in Nadia district because to find a hostel where they will be allowed to stay in Calcutta. And that's the same everywhere. So, we have to contextualize it. It's dangerous to not contextualize this in the country that we live in.
No, I agree. Access is, I'm not saying I think we have privilege, but I think you, for your part, have both jobs. If you look at JP Morgan, I mean, again, these are all very male-dominated positions, including coming into politics, right? And, I mean, you've had to fight your way through it. I mean, I know the professions that I went into, whether it was lounge bars or then coming into...
very male-dominated.
Very male-dominated, very male-dominated, right? So we've also had to fight our own ways. But I mean, yes, we have had access. No, fair point. Do you think... We've obviously sort of established that we have the Indian man doesn't necessarily like the woman, I think, in some strange way.
It's a good way of putting it. You're right. You're absolutely right.
No, I'm
he
sorry.
Doesn't like what she actually is. He has a vision of what she should be.
Yeah, he would like to use her, abuse her, but doesn't really like the women. We seem to, I think, in some strange way, I mean, perhaps politically wrong for even saying this, like men better. In our country, and yet we don't seem to come to terms with, also accepting that. What do you think we can do to change things on ground? I mean, I know women, yes, bringing women in, that's one thing, but I'm talking about in particular with menopause.
We need to change.
What can we do with menopause to change things on ground? What could we do?
To make men, you said to change men.
Menopause.
Oh,
so
menopause,
I mean, for menopause, like, what could we do?
I think the support and the access and the awareness has to be when you talk about breast cancer. How in the US did people when we went to college in 1994, 93,
yes,
94,
there was
in the showers in Mount Holyoke, you had pictures saying, "Do this test.
Yes.
Touch your breast when you're in the shower. If there's a lump, tell us about it."
Yes.
Now, this is how you made it aware. When we went to work every year, you have to have a pap smear. cervical cancer is out there, you have to have a pap smear.
Right.
So these were outreach programs that were aimed, and that very simple things that worked. That's something that we need to do as far as menopause is concerned, is basically target women who are in the 45 to 55 age group, reach them through ASHA networks, through women networks, through television, through social media. I don't even see the word menopause done anywhere. And just when they say sar dard ka dimag, sari dawn lo.
There is no word.
Sar dard ka sari dawn lo, pet ka something pudin hara lo. You need to be able to say, so nahi pa rahe ho, pasina ho raha hai,
Ye menopause
50 saal ke umar mein ho, doctor se baat karo.
Yeah.
You need to be able to have targeted advertising like that. You need to put it out there in radio. I think radio is still a very important medium. You need to have RJs talk about it. You need to have television anchors talk about it. You need to have YouTubers talk about it. You need everybody to talk about it. And that's how people get to know, because most people don't even know what's happening to them.
So a lot of awareness required, and because that's what
Women don't
breast
even know
cancer
what's
was,
happening
right?
to them, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was really about awareness. It was also about the fact that you didn't need to keep quiet, right? I think we've also grown up with the silence, right? Because no grandmother ever talked about it. It was a phase you went through, and that was it.
Yeah.
So it is bringing that conversation and making it
Mainstream.
more mainstream, more available for people to actually listen to, and therefore give it a name.
I don't know the Bengali word for menopause.
Is there Bengali word for menopause?
I'm sure there is, but I don't know it. And that just shows how far away and removed.
Wow.
Do you know the Hindi word for it?
No.
Do you know the Punjabi word for
No,
it? No.
no,
There you go.
no.
So I'm a vernacular person. I live in I speak Bengali all the time. I operate in a Bengali environment. I don't
never
know
heard
the
it.
Bengali word for menopause. That just shows how much in the darkness
the word
there
is
still
missing. The word
it's
is
a missing
missing.
word, and
It's a missing word.
that's it. It's a word that's missing from the lexicon.
Wow, interesting. Just to end, one last question. There is a 45-year-old woman today listening to this. She's perhaps going through a lot of symptoms. She's quite terrified. What is the message you would like to send to her?
You're not alone. You really are not alone.
Yeah.
And you may think you're alone. You're not alone. So reach out to a friend, a neighbor, anybody. Talk about it. You'll find 2, 3, 4 people who have the same issues.
Right.
Whatever is available to you, whether it's talking about it and making you feel better, whether it's dealing with it, whether there's a doctor that you can go to, but like you have a Saheli that you talk to, and this Saheli network has always been used in India, and I would tell every woman, find a Saheli, find a friend who talk about this, and make your little groups and networks, and together find a support system. It's very important that you don't feel unloved during this time. It's very important that you don't think you're alone, and that you don't think you're going nuts. Because I've read so many, when I was coming here, I actually went on the internet and I typed menopause in India. And there was a few scroll and print articles that came up, and it talked about a rural woman who was going to jump off a roof and she stopped because she had 2 small children, because she didn't know what was happening to her body. She just couldn't figure out. She couldn't sleep. She was fatigued. She was getting headache. She was dehydrated, and she didn't know, and she thought she was going mad.
Yeah.
So when people confuse physical symptoms with the onset of some kind of mental and physical disease, and they're scared that what is happening to me? Do I have this? Is this a symptom of a larger malaise or a larger sickness? And people get so worried and stressed that they have nervous breakdowns. So let it not come to that.
Thank you so much, Mahua. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
There are women who tell you what this transition feels like. There are fewer women who tell you what it asks of a woman in public life, women in demanding careers, women who do not have the luxury of disappearing while their bodies recalibrate. What I take away from this conversation is that this stretch of life has never been talked about. The script doesn't exist. Whatever you're going through, you're not the first to feel it, you're not alone, and you're not going crazy. It was menopause all along. If this resonated with you, share it with a woman who needs to hear this. Subscribe so you never miss an episode, and see you next Thursday.